The night sky was quiet, filled with countless stars that had always seemed so far away. In a valley where the hills curved gently like protective arms around a village, people were gathered together. They had been warned by strange signals that something unusual was coming. The signals were not heard with ears but seen on every screen across the world. Lines of light and shapes no one could explain had appeared in the sky, and then vanished, leaving only one clear message that everyone could understand. They are coming. The people of the valley stood together, some whispering to each other, some holding their children close, and others staring upward in silence. They had no weapons, no machines of war, only their voices and their courage. For a long time, nothing happened. The night stretched on, filled with an expectant hush. Even the wind seemed to pause as though it too was waiting. Then the stars shifted. A shadow passed over them, so vast and so dark that it swallowed entire constellations in a single sweep. The villagers gasped as the shape of a colossal ship emerged against the heavens. It did not roar like human engines. It did not burn the air or shake the ground. Instead, it moved with a kind of grace that seemed almost impossible for something so large. The ship was smooth and silver, glowing softly at its edges as though it carried a piece of the dawn within it. Children clutched their parents as beams of light descended from the underside of the vessel. These were not harsh beams, but gentle, almost like moonlight flowing down to touch the earth. The villagers stepped back as the beams landed in the open field at the center of the valley. The grass bent and shimmered where the light met the ground, but it did not burn. It looked as if the field itself had turned into a mirror of the stars above. A silence deeper than before spread across the valley. Then from the heart of the beam a figure appeared. She stepped forward slowly, her form tall and regal, her movements calm and sure. She was unlike anything the villagers had ever seen. Her presence carried both power and peace, and her very being seemed to glow faintly as if she had been born of starlight. The queen had come. The villagers did not know her name, but they felt it in their bones. She was no soldier, no conqueror. She carried herself with a dignity that made people bow their heads without even thinking. Her eyes moved across the crowd. They were deep and ancient, as if they had seen more worlds than anyone could count. Yet those eyes were not cold. They were searching. The queen walked forward, and the people stepped back to give her space. Every footfall was silent, yet it felt heavy with meaning. She did not speak with her mouth, but her voice echoed inside the minds of the villagers, soft and clear. "Do not fear," the voice said. "I have come not to harm, but to see." A murmur spread among the crowd. Some felt relief. Others remained uneasy, unable to believe such power could arrive without purpose. Yet none of them fled. There was something in her presence that held them still, something that drew them like a tide pulling the shore. Among the people stood families from every corner of the valley. Old men with hands roughened by farming, women who had raised generations, children who had never known more than the hills and rivers of their home. They stood together, unsure of what the queen sought. Then she began to move again, slower now, her gaze sweeping across them as if she was looking into their very souls. She paused before a tall man with gray hair, then moved on. She looked at a mother holding a baby, and her expression softened, but still she continued. The crowd grew restless. What was she seeking among them? The children whispered to each other, clutching each other's hands. Their eyes were wide with both wonder and fear. For them, this was a story come alive. Yet for the adults, it was something far heavier. What if she wanted to take something from them? What if her calm was only a mask? At the very edge of the crowd stood a boy named Arin. He was the youngest in the valley, barely more than a child, small in stature, and often unnoticed. He held his breath as the queen's eyes passed over him once, then returned. She stopped. The people stirred as she took a step closer to Arin. His heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to step back, but his feet would not move. The queen's eyes fixed on him, deep and thoughtful. She reached out her hand, not touching, only pointing toward him with a gentle motion. Gasps rose from the villagers. Parents pulled their children close, while elders exchanged troubled glances. The queen had chosen someone. But why the smallest? Why the youngest? Arin looked up at her, his own fear battling with a strange pull inside him. Something about her gaze felt familiar, as if he had seen it in a dream long before this night. His voice caught in his throat, and he whispered softly, barely loud enough for anyone to hear. "Why me?" The queen's voice echoed in every mind again, though her eyes never left Arin. You carry what we seek, strength not of body but of spirit. We have traveled far to find it. The villagers were unsettled. Some cried out that he was just a child. Others urged him to step back to hide behind them. But Aaron did not move. The queen's presence held him steady, as if his feet were rooted to the earth itself. The silence deepened once more, and the valley seemed to hold its breath. The stars above twinkled faintly around the shadow of the alien ship. The beams of light shimmered, waiting. The queen stood still, her hand lowered now, her gaze gentle but unwavering. In that moment, the valley understood. She had not come to conquer. She had not come to destroy. She had come to choose, and she had chosen the youngest among them. The valley was wrapped in silence. The queen's hand had lowered, but her gaze remained steady on Irene. The boy felt a chill run down his spine as hundreds of eyes turned toward him. He had always been the quiet one, the one who followed the others rather than led. Yet now, in the middle of the open field, he was the center of something greater than he could understand. The villagers stirred. A man stepped forward, his voice trembling as he spoke. He is only a child. Why do you choose him when there are others here stronger and wiser? The queen's voice entered their minds again, calm and even, like a river that could not be shaken. Strength of body fades. Wisdom of age can turn rigid. What we seek is the flame of new spirit. It burns brightest in those who still look at the world with wonder. Her words carried weight, and though no one could explain it, they felt the truth behind them. Still the villagers hesitated. Mothers held their children closer, fearful that the queen might suddenly point to them as well. Fathers whispered to each other, uncertain of what this meant for their valley, their families, their entire world. Aaron stood still. His heart was loud in his ears, but something inside him pushed against the fear. The queen's eyes did not frighten him the way he thought they should. They did not feel like chains. Instead, they felt like a door opening, inviting him to step into a place no human had gone before. A voice rose from the crowd. It was Mira, an elder woman known for her steady wisdom. She leaned on her wooden staff and looked straight at the queen. "If you take him, what will you do with him?" she asked, her voice firm though her hands trembled slightly. The queen bowed her head slightly as if in respect to the elder's courage. "He will walk among my people. He will see as we see, and we will learn as he learns. No harm will come to him. His path will be one of sharing, not of loss." Still, the crowd murmured. They had never known beings from beyond the stars. Never imagined their lives could change in a single night. The thought of one of their own being chosen by such a presence filled them with both pride and dread. Aaron's father pushed through the crowd then. His face was pale, his hand shaking. He placed them on his son's shoulders and looked into his eyes. "You do not have to go," he whispered. "You are only a boy. You belong here with us." Aaron swallowed hard. His throat was dry and he wanted to nod, to run back into the safety of his father's arms. But then he glanced up at the queen again. She stood still, waiting, not pulling him with force, not demanding, only waiting for him to choose. Something stirred inside him, a memory of watching the stars at night, wondering what lived beyond them, dreaming of worlds no one in the valley had ever seen. He realized that dream was now standing in front of him, real and alive. "I want to see," Aaron said softly. His father's grip tightened, but Aaron continued, his voice gaining strength. "If she says no harm will come, then maybe this is something I am meant to do. Maybe this is why she came." The villagers gasped. A wave of emotion spread through them. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others murmured words of worry, but many looked at Aaron with a kind of awe. He was the smallest among them, yet he was speaking with more courage than they expected. The queen's expression softened. Her eyes glimmered faintly, reflecting the starlight. "The choice is made," her voice rang in their minds. "The flame we seek has spoken for itself." The beams of light from the ship brightened, forming a path that stretched toward her. The villagers stepped back, shielding their eyes. Aaron felt his father's hand trembling on his shoulder, then slowly fall away. His father's eyes were wet, but he did not speak again. He only gave a small nod, a gesture of reluctant trust. Mira, the elder, stepped closer to Aaron and placed her hand gently on his head. "Go, child," she said, her voice low but steady. "You carry all of us with you now. Do not be afraid of the unknown. The unknown has always been where humans grow strongest." Aaron nodded. His legs felt weak, but he took a step forward. The ground beneath the beam shimmered like liquid light. Every movement felt heavy, as though the moment itself weighed more than his small body could carry. Yet he kept walking. The queen turned, her long figure gliding toward the light, and Aaron followed. With each step, the murmurs of the villagers grew softer behind him, replaced by the humming silence of the beam. He glanced back once and saw the faces of his people, some worried, some proud, all watching with unblinking eyes. When he reached the edge of the light, he paused. The air inside the beam was cool, filled with a faint vibration that made his skin tingle. He felt like he was standing in the heart of a dream. The queen raised her hand, not to pull him but to guide him. "Step forward," her voice said gently in his mind. "The path opens only if you walk it yourself." Aaron took a breath, then stepped into the light. The beam rose around him, wrapping him in brilliance. The valley, the villagers, the hills all faded from view. For a heartbeat, he felt both weightless and rooted at once, as if the world itself was holding him and letting him go. The hum grew louder, yet it was not frightening. It was like a song he could not understand but somehow knew was meant for him. The last thing he saw before the light carried him upward was his father's face, standing among the crowd. His father's hand was raised slightly, as if reaching toward him but letting him go at the same time. And then, the valley was gone. The beam pulled him higher, into the vast shape of the ship above. The silver surface of the vessel opened like a flower, revealing an entrance of light. Aaron's breath caught in his throat as he passed through. The air was different, filled with a faint sweetness and a soft hum that seemed to flow from every wall. Beside him, the queen walked with ease, her figure glowing faintly in the ship's illumination. She turned her head slightly toward him, her eyes gentle. "You have chosen," her voice said. "And so have we." Aaron nodded, though his voice would not come. The ship closed around them, sealing the world he had known below. For the first time in his life, he was no longer on the earth of his home. He was on a vessel that drifted between stars. The journey had begun. Aaron's eyes opened to a world unlike any he had ever imagined. The inside of the alien ship was vast, larger than the valley where he had grown up, stretching in ways that seemed to bend the mind. Walls shimmered with soft light, glowing in shades of blue and silver, and the floors reflected the stars beyond the windows like liquid glass. Everything around him felt alive, though nothing moved in the way humans understood. The queen led him forward, her steps silent yet purposeful. Every movement she made seemed to command the room without effort. Aaron felt a mixture of awe and nervousness. He had never seen a place like this. The ceiling seemed to stretch infinitely, curving into shapes that made him feel as though he was walking inside a living crystal. "Where are we going?" he asked, his voice small. The queen did not answer with words spoken aloud. Instead, her thoughts came gently into his mind. "We walk to meet my people. You will see them, and they will see you. Do not be afraid." Aaron nodded, though his stomach twisted in nervousness. His mind tried to imagine what her people could look like. Would they be like the queen, tall and regal, or something entirely different? He had never seen beings from another world before. His heart raced with curiosity, fear, and excitement all at once. The hallways opened into a larger space. Here the light grew warmer and the walls seemed to pulse faintly, as though the ship itself was breathing. Aaron stopped, staring in wonder. Dozens of figures appeared, moving with slow grace. They were like the queen, yet each one carried its own unique presence. Some were taller, some shorter, and each seemed to shimmer with a faint glow, like sunlight reflecting on water. The queen gestured toward them, and they turned their attention to Aaron. The boy felt their eyes upon him, and a strange sensation washed over him, a mixture of examination and curiosity. He realized that these beings were studying him as much as he was studying them. Their faces were serene, but their eyes were filled with questions. One of the beings stepped forward. She was slightly smaller than the queen and moved with careful precision. "Welcome, young human," she said, her voice clear in Aaron's mind. "We have waited long to meet one of your kind. You carry the flame we have been seeking." Aaron blinked. Flame, he thought. He had never heard that expression used this way. "It is the light within you," the being continued. "The courage, the creativity, and the wonder that you hold. It is rare among the stars. We have come far to find it." Aaron felt a mixture of pride and confusion. He was just a boy. How could he carry anything that mattered to the queen and her people? Yet when he looked at their faces, he could see that they truly believed it. The queen guided him to a large chamber. The floor was smooth and glimmered faintly, reflecting the figures around it like a calm lake. "Here," she said, "you will learn and we will learn. The path is not easy, but your spirit is ready." Aaron stepped forward cautiously. The beings around him moved gracefully, yet their movements seemed to follow a rhythm he could not understand. One of them placed a hand on a panel of glowing symbols, and the floor beneath Aaron shifted. Light formed shapes on the ground, patterns that moved and twisted like water. "This is a test," the Queen's voice said in his mind. "Do not fear failure. Only show what you can do." Aaron looked at the shapes. They formed puzzles, some requiring him to step on certain patterns in a sequence, others asking him to move quickly to avoid a shifting barrier of light. He stumbled at first, his small legs unsteady, but he watched carefully and learned the rhythm. Each step brought him closer to understanding, and each success filled him with quiet excitement. One of the beings watched him closely. "You learn fast," she thought. "It is not the knowledge of your kind, but the way you try. That is the fire we seek." Hours passed. Aaron moved from challenge to challenge, each one more complex than the last. Some tested his mind, asking him to solve riddles of shape and color. Others tested his courage, asking him to step onto paths that seemed to float in midair. Through it all, the Queen remained near him, always calm, always guiding. At one point, Aaron stopped before a chamber where the walls were filled with glowing images of stars and worlds. The Queen gestured for him to enter. As he did, the chamber came alive with scenes of countless civilizations, each one rising and falling across the universe. Some thrived, others disappeared. "These are the worlds we have visited," the Queen said. "We seek those who shine in the darkness, who bring light where none exists." Aaron stared in wonder. He had never imagined so many worlds, each one unique, each one filled with life. His small mind struggled to take it all in, yet he felt a deep connection to what he saw. "And now," the Queen continued, "you are part of our journey. You will see, and you will teach us what it means to endure, to hope, and to grow." Aaron felt his chest swell with something he had never felt before. Pride, responsibility? Perhaps both. He realized that even though he was small and young, he could still make a difference. The days passed inside the ship. Aaron learned more than he could have imagined. The Queen and her people showed him how they lived, how they thought, and how they moved through space with elegance and care. They shared ideas of creation, of harmony with technology, and of the importance of connection. Every moment was a lesson, and Aaron absorbed it all with wonder. Yet it was not all easy. There were times when the challenges were difficult. Some tasks required patience beyond his years. Others demanded courage he was unsure he possessed. Each time, the Queen would place her hand lightly on his shoulder, guiding him, reassuring him that mistakes were only steps toward understanding. One evening, as Aaron rested in a chamber filled with soft glowing light, he spoke quietly. "I miss my home. I miss the valley, the hills, my father, and the villagers." The Queen sat beside him. "And yet you have chosen this path." "I did," Aaron admitted. "I wanted to see. I wanted to help. But it is hard. The greatest journeys are always hard," she said. "But they are also the most rewarding. You carry not only yourself but the hope of your people. Remember that, and you will find strength." Aaron nodded. He did not fully understand everything the Queen said, but her words felt true. He realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the choice to move forward despite it. By the next morning, he was ready to continue. The Queen led him to another chamber where the light shifted and pulsed with soft energy. The floor moved like water beneath his feet, forming a path that seemed impossible to cross. Aaron stepped carefully, testing each movement. His legs shook, but he focused. Step by step, he crossed the chamber, his confidence growing with every movement. The beings around him watched silently, their expressions calm yet filled with admiration. Ren felt a quiet pride. He was learning. He was growing. And more importantly, he was helping the Queen and her people see what humanity could offer. By the end of the day, Aaron understood something he had not before. He was not just learning about the aliens. They were learning about him. They were learning about humanity, the courage, the creativity, and the spirit that burned brightly even in the smallest hearts. And in that realization, Aaron felt a spark of hope. Perhaps he could help them. Perhaps he could show them the strength of his kind. The Queen had chosen him for a reason, and he would not fail. As he lay down to rest that night, the soft hum of the ship around him, He thought of the valley below. The villagers, the hills, the stars. He felt a connection to them all. Even here, so far from home, he carried them with him. They were part of his courage, part of his flame. The journey had begun, and Aaron knew that whatever lay ahead, he was ready to face it. Days passed aboard the alien vessel, yet time felt different here. The stars outside moved with a rhythm unlike anything on Earth, and Aaron began to notice that even minutes could stretch into hours or pass in the blink of an eye. The Queen walked beside him often, showing him the heart of her world, and each day revealed something new. One morning, Aaron was led to a chamber filled with soft, golden light. The walls shimmered as though they were woven from threads of starlight. The air smelled faintly sweet, like blossoms carried on a gentle breeze. It was quiet, calm, and welcoming. The Queen stood at the center, her tall figure radiating a sense of both power and serenity. "Today," she said in his mind, her voice gentle, "I will show you who we are, and why we have come to seek humanity." Aaron nodded. He felt a mixture of anticipation and nervousness. He had grown more confident with each day, yet he sensed that what he was about to see would be different from any challenge or lesson before. The Queen raised her hand, and images appeared before them, floating in midair. They were scenes of her people's past, their cities, their forests, and their oceans of light. They were a beautiful civilization, filled with art, knowledge, and incredible technology. Yet Aaron could also see the change that had come over them. Their cities were quieter, their forests dimmer, their oceans less vibrant. Something essential seemed to be missing. They were strong once, the Queen said softly. Their people thrived across many stars. But as time passed, they began to forget what it meant to create, to hope, to dream. Their civilization became efficient, controlled, perfect in ways that left no room for wonder. Aaron watched the images in awe. He had never thought about civilizations in such a way. He had always imagined progress as a straight path upward, but now he understood that even advanced beings could lose something vital, something that made life beautiful and meaningful. "And that is why we came to you," the Queen continued. "We traveled across many systems to find a species that still holds what we have lost. We came to see if hope, courage, and spirit still exist somewhere in the universe." Aaron swallowed. He was just a boy. How could he, or anyone from Earth, carry the weight of such a journey? Yet the Queen's eyes, deep and steady, seemed to answer his unspoken question. "It is not only in adults that strength exists," she said. "Sometimes it is in the youngest, the smallest, the ones who see the world for the first time and wonder at its beauty. That is why I chose you." Aaron felt a warmth in his chest. For the first time he realized that being small did not mean being powerless. Courage, hope, and spirit were not measured by size or age. They were measured by heart and choice. The Queen led him to another chamber. Here the walls displayed not images but living holograms of stars, planets, and countless beings. Each one was connected by threads of light, showing a web of life throughout the universe. "Look closely," she said. "See how every choice, every action, every spark of hope or kindness ripples across the stars. Your world, your people, have potential far beyond what you imagine. Even the smallest acts can create light in darkness." Aaron traced the threads with his finger. Each one shimmered where it touched a star or a being. He realized that life was connected in ways he had never known. Every laugh, every song, every small act of courage mattered. Even his own choices mattered. As the hours passed, Aaron spoke with the Queen. He told her about Earth, the valleys, the rivers, the forests, and the people who had watched him leave. He spoke about the stories told around fires, the games children played, and the way people helped each other even when times were hard. The Queen listened, absorbing every word. "Your stories are rich with the spirit we seek," she said. "You see hope where others might see only difficulty. You see beauty where others might see only struggle. That is the gift of your people." Aaron felt pride swell in him. For the first time he understood that humans were special, not because of strength or technology, but because of their spirit. Even the smallest acts of kindness, even the simplest songs held power beyond measure. Later, the Queen took Aaron to a quiet garden within the ship. The garden was filled with glowing plants that shifted color with the light. Water ran through crystal channels, and the air carried a fragrance that made him feel at peace. The garden was alive, yet it was also controlled by delicate technology that mirrored the balance of nature. "This is our heart," the Queen said. "It is fragile. It needs care. And yet, despite our knowledge and skill, We have lost something that cannot be built with machines or light alone. That is why we have come to you. Humanity still holds the flame of spirit. You show us how to hope, to imagine, to care." Aaron walked carefully among the plants. He reached out to touch a leaf that glowed like emerald, feeling its warmth. "I never knew something so small could matter so much," he whispered. The queen smiled, though her lips did not move. "Everything matters, young one. Life is a web. Every choice you make, every act of courage, kindness, or imagination contributes to the balance. That is why we chose you. That is why we came to see humanity." As the day passed, Aaron began to understand the responsibility he carried. He was not a soldier. He was not a leader in the way adults often were. He was a bridge. His actions, his choices, his heart were being observed by a civilization far older and wiser than his own. And yet, they believed he could show them what they had lost. He also began to see the queen differently. She was not a ruler in the way humans understood. She did not command through fear or force. She guided, she taught, and she listened. She sought not to dominate but to learn. Aaron felt gratitude for her patience and trust. That night, Aaron lay in a soft chamber filled with quiet light. The hum of the ship surrounded him, a gentle rhythm that seemed to mirror his own heartbeat. He thought of the valley, of his family, and of the people who had watched him leave. He thought of the queen and her people, and of the gift they were offering him, a chance to show the strength of humanity. "I am just a boy," he whispered to himself. "How can I carry so much?" "Because you carry more than yourself," the queen's voice replied gently. "You carry the spirit of your people. That is more powerful than any weapon, any machine, any knowledge. That is the flame we have come to see." Aaron closed his eyes and imagined the villagers, the mountains, the rivers, and the stars above. He realized that even here, so far from home, he was not alone. He carried the love and hope of everyone he had ever known. And now he carried it for an entire civilization across the stars. When he opened his eyes again, he felt a new strength. He was still small, still young, still human. Yet he also felt something greater: connection, courage, and purpose. The queen had chosen him not because he was perfect, but because he was capable of hope, imagination, and spirit. The next morning, the queen guided him to a chamber filled with soft light and floating platforms. Here Aaron was to show what he had learned, not in strength, but in understanding. He moved carefully, following the rhythm of the ship, arranging patterns and making choices that reflected his creativity and spirit. Each action sent waves of light across the chamber, connecting with the threads that tied the ship together. The queen watched silently. She had seen many civilizations, but she had never seen one so young and yet so full of life. Aaron's actions created beauty, not through power but through heart. And in that beauty, the queen saw the possibility of renewal for her people. By the end of the day, Aaron understood what the queen had been trying to teach him all along. Strength was not measured in might. Knowledge was not measured in books or machines. True power came from the spirit, the courage to hope, the wisdom to care, and the creativity to imagine. And in that understanding, the queen and Aaron shared a moment of connection that bridged worlds. She had come seeking humanity's flame, and in him she had found it. Aaron lay that night under the gentle glow of the chamber, feeling both small and immense. He had seen wonders beyond his imagination, learned lessons older than Earth itself, and realized that even the youngest human could carry the light of an entire civilization. The revelation was clear. He was no longer just a boy. He was a witness, a guide, and a spark in the larger universe. And with that knowledge, he felt ready for whatever lay ahead. Milo stood on the command deck of the alien flagship, looking out at the endless stars. Years had passed since he had been taken from Earth as the youngest human chosen by the queen. He was no longer a boy with trembling hands and frightened eyes. He had become a figure of strength, shaped by battles, choices, and lessons among the stars. The alien queen stood beside him, her presence calm and powerful. She was proud, yet there was a softness in her voice as she spoke. "You have grown, Milo. You came as a child, but now you stand as more than a man. You stand as a bridge between worlds." Milo did not answer at once. His mind was full of memories. He remembered the day she had first chosen him. He remembered the cries of his family. He remembered the endless doubts that had followed him during his first days on the alien ship. He remembered how the soldiers looked at him with cold eyes, believing he was too small, too weak. Yet he had proven them wrong in battle, not through greater strength, but through daring and vision. He turned to the Queen. "You gave me a chance when no one else believed in me, but I was never strong alone. The courage I carried came from Earth. It came from the people who raised me. It came from knowing that humans do not bow easily, even when afraid." The Queen smiled faintly. "And that is why you are ready to return. Your people must see you again. They must know what you have become. The galaxy knows you as the voice of courage. Let humanity see the truth as well." Milo's heart raced at her words. For so long he had wondered if he would ever walk again on Earth's soil, see the sky of his home, or hear the voices of his people. Now the day had come. The flagship descended through the skies of Earth, and a sea of humans gathered to witness the return. Rumors had spread like fire across nations. Some said the aliens had taken a boy and turned him into a king. Some said he had been made a prisoner. Some feared he had been lost forever. Now they would know the truth. As the great ship landed, the air trembled. Soldiers stood ready, leaders waited with tense faces, and families pushed forward to see the figure who would step out. The Queen walked first, her tall frame glowing in the light of the setting sun. She was not met with fear, but with awe. Behind her came Milo. He was no longer the boy they remembered. His shoulders were broader, his eyes sharp with experience, his movements steady with confidence. Yet his face still carried the kindness that marked him as human. When his mother saw him, tears filled her eyes. She pushed through the crowd and Milo stepped down the ramp to embrace her. For a moment the galaxy seemed far away. He was simply a son returned home. The crowd roared with cheers. The leaders of Earth came forward, cautious but hopeful. One of them spoke, voice trembling. "Milo, you were taken from us when you were only a boy. What have you become among the stars?" Milo looked at them all, his voice strong so every ear could hear. "I was chosen not because I was the strongest, but because I carried what humans carry in their hearts. I was tested by fire and fear, but I learned that humanity is not small. We are not silent before the stars. We are the spark that refuses to die." When the alien empire was crumbling, they looked to me, and I gave them hope. That hope did not come from me alone. It came from every story I carried, every lesson taught by my people. I was human among aliens, and they saw that humans are the light that does not fade. The Queen raised her voice. "He is not my servant. He is not my captive. He is my chosen heir of spirit. Where my people saw only darkness, he showed them a path of courage. Humanity is more than one world. Humanity is the fire that can guide even empires." The people of Earth listened, stunned and proud. For the first time, they saw themselves, not as the weak ones of the galaxy, but as something greater. Milo had shown them what humans could mean to others. That night, Milo stood with his family again. He looked at the stars above. His sister asked him softly, "Will you stay with us now?" Milo placed a hand on her shoulder. "I will never leave Earth behind, but I cannot stay only here. The stars call me and I must answer. Earth must not hide from the galaxy. We must step forward and show what we are. If I stay only here, then my journey means nothing. But I promise you this. I will always return." His mother held his hand, tears in her eyes but pride in her heart. She saw that the boy she once knew had become a man who belonged to both Earth and the stars. In the following days, Milo spoke before councils, leaders, and crowds. He told them of the battles he had fought, of the alien lives saved by human ideas, of the unity he had seen possible among different worlds. He explained that Earth had nothing to fear. Instead, it had everything to offer. "We are small in body but not in spirit. We can stand among the greatest powers because we carry a fire that does not die. The galaxy has already seen it through me. Now it must see it through all of us." His words lit a fire across nations. Walls of fear began to fall. People who once looked at the stars with dread now looked at them with hope. Children whispered Milo's name. dreaming that one day they too could walk among the stars. Soldiers stood taller, knowing that their courage meant more than they had ever believed. Scientists and explorers began to plan, inspired by the thought that Earth could rise not as a follower, but as a guide. The alien queen stayed on Earth for a short time, watching humanity with sharp eyes. She saw their laughter, their stubbornness, their endless dreams. One evening she said to Milo, "Your people remind me of a flame that refuses to die even in the strongest wind. Guard that flame well, for it will shape the galaxy." Milo nodded. "I will, not as one man, but as one human among many. Together we will show the stars who we are." Years later, songs were told across the stars of the boy who had been chosen by the alien queen. They told of the human who rose from fear to courage, who turned the course of battles, who returned to his people not as a prisoner but as a leader. His story became a legend, carried from one world to another, and on Earth, when children looked up at the night sky, they no longer felt small. They whispered to each other, "If Milo could stand among the stars, then so can we." The Queen had chosen the youngest human, but in doing so, she had given humanity something far greater. She had given them belief, and belief once awakened could never be taken away. Milo stood at the edge of the great ocean one morning, watching the sun rise. He breathed in the air of Earth and smiled. He knew he was both a son of Earth and a child of the stars. The journey had changed him, but it had also changed his people. Humanity was no longer waiting in the shadows of the galaxy. Humanity was stepping into the light, and in that moment, Milo whispered to himself, strong and certain, "We are ready." Ugh.